Hello, good evening, and welcome to Prog Chattery 777. We've made it to the final episode of my Kate Bush chat series, which means we're talking about Before the Dawn. Oh yes. So this was released just last year in 2016, and it is of course a live album documenting the series of concerts that she undertook in 2014. And it is absolutely stellar. It is a fantastic live album. If you are a fan of Kate Bush, it is essential that you have this in your life. It is currently my favorite Kate Bush album because it's new, but it's great hearing live versions of all these tracks because, of course, Kate's very famous for having not done a whole lot of live performances during her career. She had the Tour of Life in the late 70s, which was big and massive and very influential and innovative, and then she disappeared for well over 30 years. There was no live performances, no touring, nothing for over 30 years. And then in 2014, she got together a fantastic band dubbed the K Fellowship and put together this concert series called Before the Dawn. And so obviously that's notable. First live performances in over 30 years. But the other thing that's notable is it is just so fantastic. It's she could have done it. She could have been doing this forever. It's like she never left. It's like that whole gap. There's the continuity is just perfect there. There's a couple points of controversy I think that came up with this. I mean, for one, a lot of people, I think, were hoping for a DVD because the concert, of course, was very, very visually oriented, and there was actors involved. It was a theatrical production. There's all these cool set designs that came through as the concert went along. So, not having that visual element could be a little bit frustrating. But I heard a really interesting interview with Kate. And she did it right around the time this was released, back in November of last year. And, she made a really good point. She was talking about a live album, I think by Elton John, that she was a really big fan of. And, what she says is that just having the audio document is actually probably closer in essence to what happened at the concert. It's a better representation of, the vibe of the concert than having a DVD. Because when you watch the DVD, you're distracted by the camera angles and, the whole production of the DVD. It's more like watching a movie than it is experiencing a concert. Whereas, you get this album, it's mixed very well, the production is great. You can close your eyes and you still get a sense of what's going on stage. You can visualize it for yourself. I mean, you can feel the energy of the crowd when, a cool visual comes up, or when, some of the bits of acting that come into play. So I think it's just the audio document is probably a truer, like I said, a truer representation of the concert. And I commend Kate for sticking to her guns and saying, no, this is a live album. This isn't a DVD. This isn't a big, fancy movie. It's a classic, true to the roots live document, which I think is really, really cool. And the other controversy, I think, is probably to do with the set list. I think a lot of people were kind of upset that some key songs weren't performed, and if you look at the set, there's nothing that she performed any older than 1985. The oldest stuff that is performed on here is from Hounds of Love. So, the Kick Inside, Lionheart, Never Forever, and The Dreaming have no live representation from this tour or from this concert series. And, I think a lot of people are kind of upset, saying like, oh, why couldn't you do Wuthering Heights for the fans, or why couldn't you do Wow, or whatever it is. And, to me the answer is simple. When she wrote a lot of those songs, I mean, she was 19 years old. She was in a very different state of mind than she is now. So I think the fact that she chose songs closer to the later half of her career is wise, because it's a better representation of, Kate Bush in 2017, the modern Kate Bush. It would be, I don't want to say dishonest or pretentious or anything, but it wouldn't be quite on for her to go up and do Wuthering Heights like she did when she was 19, simply because she's not 19 anymore. So I think the songs are more relevant. That's my personal opinion. And like I said, it's great to hear this stuff live, because she never played it live before. So having all these new versions of songs is wonderful. Of course, the two very notable pieces that were performed were she did the entirety of the Ninth Wave, the second side of Hounds of Love, and she also did the entirety of A Sky of Honey from Ariel, which, as I said in that video before, is one of my favorite pieces of music ever. So having a live version of that is just, it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. And so that's the second act. The second act is the Ninth Wave, the third act is Sky of Honey, and the first act is a collection of songs, which is cool. I mean, it's cool that she set it up that way. And a side note, it's kind of sad that I never actually got to see the performances. It's funny, in 2014, me and my then girlfriend, now fiance, did a backpacking trip through Europe, and we were through Europe for about 2 months, and we'd figured out our travel plans before the concerts were announced, and we ended up leaving about, I don't know, 3 weeks before the first concert was due to begin in London. So that was kind of a bummer that I didn't get a chance to see it, but I'm grateful that we have this excellent audio document of the event. And another side note, my fiance also picked this up for me for Christmas last year, so that's why she's my fiance. She gets me cool stuff like this. Anyway, I'm not going to go into a track analysis because obviously I've talked about all the tracks in previous videos. Check those out. But I'll kind of go through the concert a little bit as as per tradition in these little videos. So Act 1, of course, is the it's kind of like a best of set, just a collection of songs, some very well known, some less well known, which I think is really cool. And it's really cool. The way that she said it, the way that she described the first set was almost to kind of lead the audience into a false sense of security. You think, oh, okay, cool, she's playing some songs, this is nice. There wasn't a whole lot of visuals in the first act, I don't think. And if you were at the concert and you're watching this, please do tell. If I talk about something on the album, I'd love to be enlightened as to what was actually happening on stage. But yeah, I think the visuals were kind of a little lower key in the first act, which is cool because again, they're shorter songs, right? And the concert opener is of course Lily, which is one of my favorite Kate Bush songs. It's just a tremendous opener. Having that bass line is a great way to keep the vibe up for the crowd. Boom, 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 boom. Really, really good intro, and of course you can hear the audience reaction when Kate makes her way to the stage, and yeah, terrific performance. Definitely based on the director's cut version, so that's good because that's the better version, and it's a great opener. That leads us to Hounds of Love, of course, title track from Hounds of Love, and it's such a great second song. It does the same thing it does on the Hounds of Love album. With the album, that album opens with Running Up That Hill, which is really, really, really great, and then Hounds of Love just grabs that energy and maintains it so well, and it has the same effect on the concert. Really good. There's a good sense of momentum. The concert's moving forward. It's also really, really nice to hear the more modern, updated production techniques. I don't think Hounds of Love is a terribly dated album, to my ears anyway, but hearing the sound of the whole band playing it is really, really good. And I mean, the band she's got is just absolutely fantastic. I think it's right that she actually credited the album to the K Fellowship, because it is the performance by the band that, it's one of the factors that make it such a good album. They're just so tight and so well rehearsed, and great stuff. Anyway, we move on to track 3, which is Joanni. We get Joanni from Ariel. That's kind of a little surprise. This is probably one of the songs where she could have put Wuthering Heights in there. But again, Joanni is like it's the modern Wuthering Heights. It's the current version. Of course, it's about Joan of Arc, and it's wonderful hearing her sing live and hearing that high part, the "Who is that girl?" Really great stuff. Terrific performance, and again keeps the energy going. We move into track 4, which is Top of the City, one of the best songs from the Red Shoes, and again the band is kind of taking the director's cut version as the kind of standard to play under, and really good. Nice ballad, kind of slow the tempo down and create a nice little flow to the proceedings. And then this is followed by, on the CD, we get Never Be Mine, which is, of course, one of my favorite ballads of hers. Really, really, really heart-wrenching and beautiful song. This wasn't performed live, actually. The version we have on here is just a rehearsal. And the band had it ready, but it ultimately didn't make the final cut. For the concert, anyway. It made it to the album, but thankfully it made it to the album, because I really like it. But no, it was never actually performed live, which is interesting. I think Top of the City and Never Be Mine would have been good to interchange nightly, but I didn't design the show. And it's a good version, again, based on the director's cut version. Then we move on to track 6, which is Running Up That Hill. That's definitely the #1 crowd pleaser so far, I would think, other than Hounds of Love. And it is a very good version. It is the more modern version, which has that kind of low vocal part, you know, if I only could be running up that hill. It has that at the beginning, and I think that, yeah, that makes the song. I like the bookend of that lower vocal coming in. And again, it's just wonderful to have a really, really solid live version like this. You can really hear the grace of the track. You know, there's such a smoothness to it. You know, it's not a heavy, abrasive song. You know, the song almost kind of glides on a wind of mystery. And yeah, great version. Great to have a live version, so that's A-okay. And then we move on to track 7, the last song of the first set, last song of Act 1. We got King of the Mountain. And this is the highlight of the first disc for me. I really love the song King of the Mountain, and this is an absolutely out-of-this-world performance of it. It is so good. You know, the song itself it was made for live. You know, it has that live energy to it, and you know that steady build, and the chorus is so good. And at this point of the concert too, you know, towards the end of this version, you know, after the last chorus, and the band kind of gets more into jamming, the energy level just skyrockets, and you can tell this is the moment in the concert when the visuals come into full effect, and you know, on one side it's like a great grand finale for the first set of songs, and on the other side it's like the concert really begins here. This is where you know, she lets the audience know that you are in for an absolutely massive treat. It's just the band's performance is just so good. You know, that big jam at the end. And again, you kind of get a sense from the energy of the crowd, and you get a sense that the visuals are going on, and the band is just jamming away. I keep dropping stuff. Yeah, distracted. But yeah, the band is just chugging away there towards the end, and it is just utterly fantastic. I love the synth chords that come in towards the end. It's so epic. Definitive version of King of the Mountain, far and away. You know, I love the album version as well from Ariel, but this is just it's amazing. One of the highlights of the whole album for me, actually, is King of the Mountain. Anyway, excuse me. We move on to Act 2, which is, of course, the deluxe version of the Ninth Wave from Hounds of Love, and it is fantastic. It's twice as long as the original version. The original version is only 20 minutes long. This is a 40-minute version, and we get all the original songs that make up the song cycle. Plus, we get additional kind of acting clips. There's little vignettes that kind of narrate the story of this poor woman lost at sea, which is really, really cool. Like, the actors start to come out more. The pictures that I've seen, you know, this is where a lot of the visuals come in. You know, the like the set changes and whatnot, which is it's just fantastic. And it opens up with what's called Astronomer's Call, and must be an actor. I think it's an actor on stage that's doing it. At first I thought that it may have been like a pre-recorded thing, but I think there is an actor actually doing that little monologue. And yeah, it's just the sound of a guy on a phone call saying, "Oh, we've got an emergency," da-da-da-da, which is a great setup for the piece. And that leads into, of course, And Dream of Sheep, which opens the Ninth Wave. Or at least it did on the original version. Now the Astronomer's Call opens it. And the And Dream of Sheep is the vocals were actually pre-recorded. I'm not sure if the whole band is playing here, or if it is entirely like a studio rendition that's being played through the PA. She did release a little video where she filmed it in a like a water tank, and sang facing up. So I think that's just a break for the band, I think. At least a break for Kate, so she can rest her voice and maintain it for the rest of the show. And it's a really, really good version. Fantastic stuff. Moves into Under Ice, which is, again, supplemented with all kinds of extra atmosphere. And the backing singers on here, too. The backing vocal performance on this and the rest of the album is right out of this world. But yeah, Under Ice is really cool. Takes us into Waking the Witch, and this is the section of the Ninth Wave that I think really gets a highlight, because it's so nice hearing the modern production. It's much heavier. The guitar plays a much more prominent role, and I also like the male voice, the "Confess to me, girl, I question your innocence." That male voice is much more clear. And there's got to be a Monty Python reference, too, "She's a witch!" The guy almost says it like the Holy Grail line, which is quite fun. I know Kate's a big appreciator of comedy, so that wouldn't surprise me if that's a deliberate Python reference. It sounds more Python-esque on this version than the studio version. But yeah, Waking the Witch is really cool. Then we go to track 5 of Act 2, which is Watching Them Without Her, which is another bit of spoken word dialogue. There's pictures where they have a set, and at this point it's the woman at sea. Her husband and son are at home trying to figure out dinner. I like the reference to Toad in the Hole. I know about Toad in the Hole. For those of you who watched my stand-up video and I pronounced Leicester Square incorrectly, well, I'm pronouncing it right now, but I may not always pronounce Leicester Square the right way, but I do know what Toad in the Hole is. Anyway. So that's kind of a cool little spoken word bit, and it's also her son Albert McIntosh. Bertie gets to do a little bit of acting on here, which is quite cool. And that leads into, of course, Watching You Without Me. Great to have a live version of that. Kind of like the album version. I still feel it's too short. I'd like to have that atmosphere a little bit longer, but splitting hairs. It's a great version. Then we go into track 7, which is Little Light. You're kind of expecting Jig of Life to come into play, but we got this new kind of light piano piece with Kate just kind of singing about over top, very gently. And it's nice, it makes a nice little sieg, and it lets the piece kind of breathe a little bit, gives it a bit of extra room, which is really cool. Then we go to track 8, which is Jig of Life, the big Celtic number, and again, it is absolutely fantastic. I think that might be why Little Light is there, so that the band can get all their acoustic gear ready, so they can do the Jig of Life section. And really good version. I don't know what version I like better. It's a great piece. But yeah, it's just so hard to choose a favorite version. The original version or the new version? Probably the new version, just because it's new. Then we go to track 9, Hello Earth, which is kind of the big finale of Ninth Wave in a lot of ways, and very, very good. I really like that kind of chanting section. I'm pretty sure parts of that I think are pre-recorded, but I think the singers are actually doing that chant section, it sounds great. Wonderful stuff. And it's funny with the Ninth Wave, I still don't like it as much as I like A Sky of Honey, but it's funny how you really hear it on this album. There's a lot of very quiet sections to it. You think of it as this big, grand, epic piece, but there's a lot of gentle moments that come along through it. Like even Hello Earth, even though it is kind of the finale, a lot of it is very stripped down and very intimate sounding, which is great. But you can hear that on this recording. And then after that stellar performance, it winds up with track 10, The Morning Fog. Now this is an absolute pleasure to hear on the live album because it is entirely acoustic. I really, really prefer The Morning Fog on Before the Dawn to the original Hounds of Love version. The Hounds of Love version is probably one case on the album where, yeah, it does sound a little bit mechanical and a bit dated, that production style, but having it just on the acoustic is, you hear the song, it got new life breathed into it, which is great. Real highlight hearing The Morning Fog again. It's a little extended too, and she makes reference to Albert again, And there's moments where the crowd really, really cheers. Now, there's got to be some sort of visual going on there. I'm not sure what it is. If anyone is watching this that was at the concert, it's just bugging me so much. What is the crowd cheering at every time there's a certain part of Morning Fog and you hear the crowd just go wild? I need to know what's going on. So if you saw the concert, let me know. And that concludes Act 2. And then we go to the next disc, Act 3, which is, of course, A Sky of Honey. It's one of my favorite pieces ever, and we've got a stellar live version that I think is better than the original. Wow, it was such a pleasure to hear this for the first time, and to have seen it live must have been just amazing. It would with all the theatricalness of it, it would have been just beyond words. And again, not quite so much to the same extent as the Ninth Wave, but there are sections that have been extended, and there's she's taken a few liberties with the original arrangements, which is cool. Of course, it opens with Prelude, very similar to the original version. We get the bird song and the nice gentle piano, and I think that is a recording of Albert's child voice. If it was Albert that was a part of that, Mommy, Daddy, the sky is full of birds. Pretty sure that's a recording. And that takes us into Prologue, and it's led just by the bass and not the strings for this, which it's just a new sound, which is quite cool. And it goes through the whole cycle of Prologue, which is beautiful, and all the strings that come in are absolutely lovely. And then when the song normally ends, it extends into an extra little piece, and we kind of get a full kind of band arrangement, which is really, really nice. And when that extra bit, the extended section, finally ends, and she reprises that "What a lovely afternoon," chills up the spine. That's a thing that the original version didn't have, but now we've got this version. Yeah, very, very good stuff. Then we go into the third track, the third part of the piece, An Architect's Dream. One of my favorite sections of the piece, one of my favorite Kate Bush songs. Absolutely wonderful, great performance. For the most part, quite true to the original, except for the painter's narration. And again, I think that's Albert that is the painter. I love the contrast between the live version and the original version. The original version, yes, need to get that tone a little bit right, just there. And this version, piss off, I'm trying to work here. I thought that's a good little bit of humor. Really good stuff. And yeah, like I said, it's one of my favorite parts of the album, or one of my favorite parts of the Sky of Honey, and it's a great version on here. Then we get the Painter's Link, which is really nice. We get Kate and her son Albert singing in unison a little bit, which is very nice to hear. Which leads into Sunset, which is Sunset. It's where the piece really begins to rollick. It's a very, very good performance of that. Moves into Ariel Tall, and I love that she does that live. She does the harmonizing with the bird song, which is quite cool. I think there was an extended piece on that too. I can't remember now. It's a couple of days ago since I listened to it last. But really good. That goes into Somewhere in Between. Again, I don't want to just reanalyze the piece because I did it in the aerial video, but yeah, really good version of that. And that leads us to Tawny Moon, which is an entirely new piece that she wrote, which is sung entirely by Albert, which is really, really cool, actually. I think there's a Kate Bush Facebook page that I'm involved in, and people were saying they didn't really like the song that much, but I actually really love it. Obviously, the fact that Albert's singing it is because, she chose that so she could rest her voice, because she'd been singing for at least an hour and a bit at this point. So it's a chance for her to rest up before the final run of songs. But the song itself I really, really like. And Albert's got a great tone to his voice. It's got that it's got a real European flavor to it. Like, the melody is super European, and I really like that. And it's got a very dramatic narrating voice, which is cool. There's moments of it that just hold the tension so well. And again, there must have been lots of visuals going on, like the big section, you know, ladies and gentlemen, we present for you tonight the moon. That must have been something cool happening. But yeah, it's a great indicator that yeah, we are now entering like the big epic portion of the piece. And it's a great way to build tension, and yeah, it's great. I really like it. I don't see why. Yeah, I think people probably miss Kate's voice on it, but it's your son. You know, it's fine. He can sing. He's got a great voice. Let him sing it. And it's very dramatic narration as well. Anyway, we're almost there. We've made it to track 9, which is Nocturn. This is the epic part. We're ramping up to full speed, 9 times the speed of sound. And yeah, it is a very good version. You know, the band really starts to kick into high gear at this point. They've been in high gear for the whole show, but you know, it's Sky of Honey. It's the epic part. And there's a little addition put onto Nocturne as well, which I think is really cool. You know, towards the end of the song, it goes into this kind of halftime funky groove, and she reprises a section from Waking the Witch from the Ninth Wave. You know, help this black bird, and I think that's a really happy coincidence that, you know, all the bird song on Sky of Honey coincides with the blackbird that is sung about on the Ninth Wave. You know, it adds a certain degree of continuity through the whole concert, which is really cool. But then it goes into the big epic section after that, you know, climbing up on the area. Just my head explodes every time I hear that. Doesn't matter how many times I hear it. It's just, you know, God, what a great moment. And we get that big moment where we go into Ariel, the final section of the piece, and oh my God, to have seen this, I don't know if I would have been knocked unconscious if I saw this live. You know, my hair stands up on end when I'm sitting in my listening chair listening to it. If I was actually at the concert, I would have had a heart attack or something. I would have lost my mind completely. It is such a powerful piece. And, you know, again, live, it must have been so good. It must have been just so good. And it is so good on here as well. You know, the very beginning where, you know, she's saying, you know, bring it up, bring it down. Maintaining that energy and maintaining that tension is just wonderful. And she's just killing it with her vocals. She's singing so well. And, of course, there's the big laughing section in the middle, which, you know, always brings joy to my senses. And towards the very end, you know, when the guitar comes in, you know, the tempo speeds up. You know, the band takes it to an even faster level, and it just keeps going and going and going, and relentless and relentless and relentless. And of course, you know, this is the section where counting down the seconds before the sun rises, and when it hits that final note, wah ha 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 ha. There's a big explosion, and you know, that I would have been unconscious if I saw it live. You know, it's probably a good thing I didn't get to see the show. I would have been in hospital. It would have just been all too much and too intense for me. It's just beautiful. And that concludes the main part of the concert. So that's the end of A Sky of Honey. Absolutely wonderful. And then we get the encores, which the first encore is Among Angels. I think I was really happy when she included that piece for this. I mean, she could have easily put a choral room on there as just kind of like the piano piece. It's just Kate and the piano. I love when that happens. And yeah, I was always a really big fan of Among Angels. Like I said, I like it better than a choral room personally. It's my personal taste. But I'm glad that she threw on something from 50 Words for Snow on here, because it's a great album and it deserves good representation. And then that, of course, leads us to the very final track of the album and the final song of the evening, final song of the concert, which is none other than Cloudbusting. And what a fantastic closer. There's no other way that you could have closed the concert. It's a lovely little wind-up at the end. And again, very good performance. Great to have a live version of Cloudbusting. Because again, the first time it was ever performed live since it was, well, first time ever performed live. It was released in '85, but you didn't do any touring, so great to have a live version of Cloudbusting, and a really good one at that. So that's the concert, and like I said, it's absolutely essential. You need to have it in your life if you're a Kate Bush fan. It is just so good to have all this great material live, and it's performed just fantastically. The band is super tight. They're super on their game, well rehearsed. You know, it's just it would have been a mind-blowing concert. Actually, I find it really funny, actually, because her little preambles when she talks to the crowd, she's so humble. You know, she's, oh, what a warm response. Thank you so much. It's like, well, what do you expect? You just blew everybody's mind with these phenomenal songs and the theatrical production and whatnot, and you know, oh, what a warm response. Of course it's gonna be. You just blew everyone's mind. So yeah, I think that's it. I've gone on long enough. I kept saying to myself, make sure that this video is shorter, because, well, my aerial video is over half an hour long. It's 35 minutes. It's ridiculous. So I've probably gone way over my time limit once again. Sorry about that. But I hope you enjoyed my chat. I hope you enjoyed listening to my Kate Bush chats. Maybe one day I'll do the other live album, the one from the Tour of Life. I know it's not as good as that one, but maybe I'll do that once. But for the time being, that is the conclusion of my Kate Bush videos. So thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed watching them. If you haven't seen them all, well, there's plenty to check out. And yeah, stay tuned here. You will see me in the future. Take care, everybody.